CBS News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins me now. Scott, there was a hearing today in which the state of Minnesota asked a federal judge to essentially order the Trump administration to end Operation Metro Surge. The judge did not make a ruling and said there were lots of parameters that had to be studied, precedent, law on the books, and acknowledging this is completely uncharted territory.
Judge had a lot of concerns and expressed them over the course of this lengthy hearing at the federal court in Minneapolis. And she's ordered the Department of Justice to make some responses to questions that were pending and to do so by the middle of the week. Among the things the judge referenced, Major, was this letter sent by Attorney General Pam Bondi to Minnesota state officials indicating, or at least intimating, they'd pull back the troops, they'd pull back the federal agents, they'd pull back the federal deployed Homeland Security agents if the state would hand over information about voter rolls, hand over information about fraud investigations or benefits that are received by people in Minnesota. And the judge was concerned that doesn't seem to be in lockstep with the mission that's been proclaimed for these agents. And what's more, the judge noted that the feds have been challenging Minnesota in the courts on a lot of these issues, from voting rolls to fraud to benefits. And the judge is wondering if they're not trying to secure through force what they can't easily secure in the courts.
Scott MacFarlane, thank you very much. Democratic Minnesota State House member Zack Stephenson joins me now. He serves as the party's caucus leader. I want to ask you about what Scott MacFarlane just referred to, because that letter Saturday evening from the Attorney General did seek specific things from the state of Minnesota that have nothing to do on their face with any kind of immigration enforcement, whatever its dimensions are in the state of Minnesota or in Minneapolis in particular. How do you regard that letter from the Attorney General, and do you have any expectation that Minnesota will comply?
I regard it as extortion, and we won't comply. It's ludicrous, the idea that the president thinks that he can hold the state of Minnesota hostage and insists that we turn over confidential and highly sensitive information about Minnesota citizens in order to get ICE off the streets of Minnesota. We won't be extorted.
It has been just reported, you might have heard, that Gregory Bovino, head of CBP, will be leaving Minneapolis and relieved of his command there, though not nationally, and that CBP officers there, I believe they number about 800, also are going to be pulling out of the city. Your reaction?
It's great news. Greg Bovino has no credibility here in Minnesota. He's been repeatedly saying things to the people of Minnesota that are easily contradicted by our own eyes. And we don't appreciate being lied to. So I'm glad he's leaving. It's a good start. It's not nearly enough.
There is a federal investigation being led by Homeland Security and the FBI. As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the state of Minnesota is not involved either in the Alex Preddy investigation or the Renee Good investigation. What's the status of that, and how do you change that dynamic?
You are correct. The state isn't involved in either investigation, but what's important is that's not of our doing. We would very much like to be involved, and we should be involved. That's been the consistent practice of this, through years and years and years across many circumstances. In Minnesota, we have the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. It's a highly regarded investigatory arm of law enforcement. They conduct thorough and nonpartisan investigations. They are built exactly for this task, and they have been deliberately excluded by federal law enforcement agents. That's unacceptable and needs to change. And most dramatically, we saw 6 prosecutors from our state's U.S. Attorney's Office, including the prosecutor, by the way, who was leading the investigations into fraud, resign because of the way that the federal government has been handling the investigation into the murder of Renee Good.
Chris Mattel, a Republican, dropped out of his race for governor today and said that ICE and CBP have been racially profiling Minnesotans, specifically those living in Minneapolis. Your reaction?
Well, he's absolutely right. And it's good to see Republicans reacting to the political disaster that's unfolding before them. I wish they had reacted to the human disaster that preceded it. It's good that people are taking action now, but it's a little too little too late.
What are you looking for, Representative Stephenson, in the next couple of days when you hear the president say he and Governor Walz are on a similar wavelength?
What the people of Minnesota want right now is justice and peace. We want our streets back. We want the public safety that we enjoy here in Minnesota. You know, there's only been 3 killings in Minneapolis so far this year. 2 of them were by federal agents. What's happening in Minnesota right now, the law enforcement action by the federal government is not making our community safer. It's making it more dangerous. And that's why it needs to end. And then there needs to be accountability for anyone who broke Minnesota law. No one is above the law in this country, and that includes federal agents.
Representative Zack Stephenson, state of Minnesota. I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.